So some new numbers came out about U.S. life expectancy, and this is so sad. Take a look at this, guys. So this is an NPR. U.S. life expectancy falls for second year in a row. Despite the availability of life-saving COVID-19 vaccines, so many people died in the second year of the pandemic in the U.S. that the nation's life expectancy dropped for a second year in a row last year, according to a new analysis. The analysis of provisional government statistics found U.S. life expectancy fell by just under half a year in 2021, adding to a dramatic plummet in life expectancy that occurred in 2020. Public health experts had hoped the vaccines would prevent another drop the following year. Quote, the finding that instead we had a horrible loss of life in 2021 that actually drove the life expectancy even lower than it was in 2020 is very disturbing, says Dr. Stephen Wolf, a professor of population health and health equity at Virginia Commonwealth University who helped conduct the analysis. Quote, it speaks to an extensive loss of life during 2021. Many of the deaths occurred in people in the prime of their lives, Wolf says, and drove the overall U.S. life expectancy to fall to 76.6 years, the lowest in at least 25 years. So this is astonishing. We are now, I believe the number is 5 years lower than comparable developed countries. 5 years lower. 5 years lower. I mean, talk about imperial decline. Oh boy, is it happening rapidly. Now, so more information on this. The drop is primarily attributed to deaths among white Americans. Now, last year, there was a huge decrease for Black and Latino Americans. In fact, I think, if I remember correctly, the drop among Black Americans was about 4 years on average. 4 years. That's insane. It wasn't as much this year among white Americans, but look, they go on to explain in this article and a variety of others that I read on this topic that it is primarily, in this instance, so it was, a lot of it had to do with were we pre-vaccine last year? I guess so. When exactly did the vaccine go out? Anyway, it doesn't really matter much. Bottom line is, a lot of this has to do with COVID. That's the main point. And for this past year, I should say, there's a lot of vaccine hesitancy among particularly white males, namely in conservative areas. And so they say that's one of the main reasons why this dip occurred. And the year before that, again, Black and Latino, there was a big decrease. So it's bad, man. It's bad. Now, they don't mention anything in any of the articles about deaths of despair. So I am curious how much that played into it as well, because we do know that there's been so many overdoses now. So fentanyl in particular is really ravaging the country. I mean, there were fewer deaths when it was the pills, just the pills. But then there was a crackdown on the pills, so now people go to the black market, they get fentanyl-tainted stuff, and they end up dying. And so maybe that has something to do with it, but I didn't see that, to be fair. I didn't see that mentioned in any of the articles, so that's just my speculation. But they do say a lot of it has to do with the vaccine hesitancy that we're seeing. So look, it has real-world consequences, man. It really does. And with all the other problems with the vaccine, and there are many, it's not a silver bullet, of course, but you have to understand there is over a 90% reduction in severe illness, hospitalization, and death from COVID if you get the vaccine. So it just, certain demographics are not getting it, and there's a big, decrease in life expectancy. Can't say that's too surprising. It's heartbreaking either way, though. I mean, that's a 76.6 or whatever it was. I remember when it was, at least 78, right? It was at least that a while ago. It's different for men and women in the U.S., but anyway, that's wild. And so I don't know what we'll see with the trend, but this is, like, moving forward, but to this point, this is, I never thought in my lifetime we'd see something like that, You always have this picture of like, well, the more technology improves, the more medicine improves as time goes by. That number will just keep going up, 75, 80, 85, 90. I mean, there's probably going to come a point where people could easily live to 95 or 100 with new medicines, but I guess diet might also hold people back. Anyway, I thought it would keep going up. It's certainly not going up. And this is yet another sign of drastic imperial decline. And it's ugly. If you want to see me and Crystal Ball interview legends like Noam Chomsky, Cornel West, and more, subscribe to Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. $5 a month gets you the video version a day early. Remember, we take 0 ad dollars for this podcast. Or you can sign up on Substack for free and get the audio version a day later. Link in the video description box below.